Hello, it's Mrs. Rosado here to read Chapter 3 for Midnight for Charlie Bone. For those of you that are following along with me, if you haven't, you can go back and find Chapter 1 and 2 to read. This is a really cool book about a boy who discovers he has some magic inside him from his family. This is Chapter 3 of Midnight for Charlie Bone, written by Jenny Nimmo and published by Orchard Books. Chapter 3 is called The Flame Cats. And as I read Chapter 3 today, I'm going to do a little comprehension check-in just to kind of make sure I'm understanding all the key events and character details as we're reading. So I'm doing a really super easy double entry journal, which you can do at home with a plain piece of paper or a notebook, whatever you have. Let me just show you my screen here. It's a double entry journal. And what you do is on one side of the journal, you can even fold your paper in half if you want. You write, I found out at the top. And then on the other side, you write, I wonder. So this is a place where you can record the things that you found out as you read this chapter, what you felt like was important to remember before you read the next chapter. And then I wonder, just questions that you have, maybe before you start reading, while you're reading, or after you read chapter 3. So I'm just going to add really quick a wondering that I'm having before I start, because I know when we started reading, when we read the last chapter, that one of the things we found out was that his aunts came to see if he was going to be good enough to go to Bloor's Academy, which is a special school, which he thinks is just for geniuses. But anyway, his aunt said that he is going to be able to be accepted there. So I am wondering, will Charlie actually go to Bloor's Academy? And my other wondering is he going to like it? Because one side of his family doesn't like his magical side, and the other side really supports him and his magic powers that he has. So I'm wondering, will he fit in or like the academy if he goes? So those are some questions that I have, and I want to find out hopefully as I read chapter 3. And then as I read, I also want to think about some things that I found out along the way. Okay, so this is called The Flame Cats. Charlie froze. He couldn't believe his uncle had seen him, but then the question came again. Charlie, why are you following me? Charlie walked out from behind a tree. How did you know? He asked in a whisper. Peyton turned to look at him. I haven't got eyes in the back of my head, if that's what you're thinking. No, I didn't think that, said Charlie. But how? Oh, yes, and now I'm remembering from chapter 2 that he was following his uncle right as chapter 2 ended, and we didn't know where his uncle was going. So that's another I wonder. Where is his uncle going? I saw you, dear boy, as I turned the corner. To tell you the truth, I was half expecting it. I don't suppose you could sleep after that dreadful evening. Peyton gave a grim smile. Is that your talent, Uncle Peyton? Charlie asked. Brightening the lights? Pathetic, isn't it? I ask you, what use is it? I wish you hadn't seen. Peyton regarded his lean fingers. Come on, let's go home. I've done enough for tonight. He held Charlie's hand and they began to walk home. Charlie saw a new side to his uncle. Not many people could boost a light just by being there. In fact, as far as he knew, no one had ever done such a thing before. Lights played a big part in the nightlife of a city. Uncle Peyton could have a wild time downtown where lights winked and glittered on every surface. Have you ever, done what you just did to a lot of lights? Asked Charlie. Like in a place where all the theaters and movies and clubs are? For a moment, Charlie thought Peyton wasn't going to reply. Perhaps he shouldn't have asked. And then his uncle murmured, Once, long ago, I did it for a girl I knew. Wow, was she impressed? She ran away, said Peyton sadly, and never spoke to me again. I see. Wouldn't it be safer if you went out in the daytime, Uncle Peyton? I mean, there aren't as many lights on. Huh, you must be joking, said his uncle. Every shop window has a light in it. There are lights everywhere, and people can see me in the daylight. Besides, it's become a habit. I just don't like daylight and won't be caught in it. They had reached number 9, and Charlie hurried back to bed before anyone else in the house woke up. He fell asleep almost at once and dreamed that Uncle Peyton had turned up the light in every star until they all exploded like fireworks. In the morning, Charlie woke up with a nasty, sinking feeling. And actually, I want to just stop there a second. I'm going to go back to my double entry journal because I did find out that Uncle Peyton, Charlie's uncle, his talent, I'm calling it magical power, but I guess they're calling it talent. Uncle Peyton's talent is turning on or up lights. So that's something I found out that might be useful. Okay. In the morning, Charlie woke up with a nasty, sinking feeling. Whether he liked it or not, he would soon be going to Bloor's Academy. Just thinking about it made him feel ill. He could only manage one slice of toast for breakfast. The eggs and bacon Maisie put in front of him were left untouched. So one of my questions was, will Charlie go to Bloor's Academy? It sounds like he is going to be going there. And another question was, will he like it? I don't know because he's not there yet, but I can tell from that paragraph that he doesn't really want to go. It says that he woke up with a bad feeling, he couldn't eat anything, so he's not looking forward to going. He's worried. Aren't you, love? Clucked Maisie. Those miserable U-beams. Why should you go to that nasty big school? We'll get you some chocolate at the shops. That'll cheer you up. Grandma Bone was not present. She had always had breakfast in her room, and Peyton only ate at night, as far as Charlie knew. He glanced at his mother, who was miles away in some kind of reverie. Will I have to wear a special uniform, he asked. His mother looked up with a start. A blue cape, she said. The musicians wear blue. Sapphire, a lovely color. But I'm not a musician, said Charlie. Not strictly speaking, his mother agreed, but they won't have a department for your talent, Charlie. You'll be put into music like your father. Take your school recorder. I'm sure that's what that will do. Will it? Charlie was doubtful. He had never been good at music and only played his recorder when he was forced to. When will I have to start? Within the month, his mother told him. So soon? Charlie was horrified. In the middle of the semester? I'm sorry, Charlie, his mother said regretfully. The U-beams think it would be best. They say there's not a moment to be lost now that they are certain. And again, I just want to add something here. Something else I found out is that Charlie is really not looking forward to going to Bloor's Academy. And he's going to be starting very soon, within the month. Charlie does not want to go to Bloor's Academy. I'm going to just abbreviate that. And I also found out Charlie is leaving for Bloor's Academy soon. These are just some things that I think are pretty important to remember. Poor little guy, Maisie muttered. It had begun to rain again, and Maisie pulled on a bright pink raincoat. Charlie's mother took an umbrella from the closet. She didn't like wearing raincoats. We won't be long at the shop, she told Charlie. Do you want me to take that photograph back? Charlie had almost forgotten Benjamin's birthday card. For some reason, he was reluctant to lose the photo just yet. No, he said, but could you buy a birthday card for Benjamin? I don't think I'll be using Runner Bean after all. When Maisie and his mother had gone, Charlie ran upstairs to get the orange envelope. He had just opened it and had pulled out the photo when the doorbell rang. No one answered it. Grandma Bone was out, apparently, and Uncle Peyton wouldn't even answer the telephone during the day. Still holding the photograph, Charlie went downstairs to open the door. A very strange man stood on the step. Stranger still were the 3 cats winding themselves around his legs. Animus in flames, said the man. Pest control. He produced a card from inside pocket of a furry-looking coat. Omnius? Asked Charlie. Not at all, said the man. Omnimus. Quite different. Orville Omnimus. He gave Charlie a big smile, revealing sharp, bright teeth. I believe you have a problem here. Mice? He gave a funny sort of leap and landed beside Charlie. I don't know, said Charlie. He'd never been told to let a stranger into the house, but this one was already in. Did someone send for you? Something did. I can't tell you what it was just yet. You might not believe me. Really? Charlie was intrigued. The cats had followed Mr. Omnimus and were now prowling around the hall. They were most unusually looking cats. The first was a deep copper color, the second a bright orange, and the third a fierce yellow. The copper cat seemed to know Charlie. It stood on its hind legs and rattled the kitchen doorknob. Have patience, Aries, said Mr. Omnimus. Will you never learn? Aries had managed to turn the knob. The kitchen door swung open and he ran inside, followed by the other two cats. Sorry about this, said Mr. Omnimus. He's an impulsive fella, is Aries. Leo's a bit pushy too. But Sagittarius, he has lovely manners. Excuse me, I'd better keep an eye on them. Before Charlie had time to turn around, Mr. Omnimus had slipped past him and hopped into the kitchen, calling, Flames, don't let me down. Do it nicely. All three cats were now pacing before the pantry. Charlie remembered the rotting fruit, and before the cat could break through another door, he opened it and let him in. A fierce pouncing, leaping, and screaming began. The pantry was apparently full of mice. Not for long, the cats caught one mouse after another, depositing their bodies in a neat line along the wall. Charlie backed away. He hadn't known there was any mice at all in the pantry. Why hadn't Maisie or his mother noticed? Perhaps they had all arrived this morning, drawn by the smell of the old fruit. Charlie was rather fond of mice and wished he didn't have to watch the little row of gray bodies grow longer and longer. When the line was 15 mice long, the cats appeared to have finished the job. They sat down vigorously and washed their immaculate fur. How about a cup of coffee? Asked Mr. Omnimus. I feel quite exhausted. As far as Charlie could tell, Mr. Omnimus had hardly lifted a finger, let alone done anything exhausting. The cats had done all the work, but Mr. Omnimus was now sitting at the kitchen table looking eagerly at the kettle, and Charlie didn't have the heart to disappoint him. He was still holding the photograph, so he put it down and went to fill the kettle. Another thing I could put here, oops, look what I put. Charlie is leaving soon. A new character has entered our story here. This man, we're not really sure why he's there. Charlie doesn't know why he's there. He kind of came uninvited with his cats, who apparently took care of their problem, their mouse problem they didn't know they have. I'm gonna put Mr. Omnimus comes to Charlie's house. And I'm even gonna come over here to my I wonder, because I am kind of wondering here at this time, who exactly is this guy? Who is Mr. Omnimus? And why did he come? Why did he come here to Charlie's house? Why did he go to? They're just some things I'm wondering. We have a new character kind of shows up. We don't really know why he's there. So I want to know that, obviously, as I read. Okay. Ah, said Mr. Omnimus, here we have it. This explains everything. What does? Charlie looked at the photograph that Mr. Omnimus was now holding up to the light. Mr. Omnimus pointed to the cat at the bottom of the photograph. That's Aries, he said. It was quite a few years ago, but he doesn't forget. He knew you'd spotted him. That's why he led me here. Okay, so one of the cats led him there. Interesting. Aries knew I'd seen this photo. It wasn't quite like that, Mr. Omnimus scratched his furry-looking head. His pointed nails were in need of a good cut, Charlie noticed. Maisie would never have let anyone get away with nails as long as that. The kettle boiled and Charlie made Mr. Omnibus his coffee. What was it like then? He asked, putting the cup before his visitor. 3 sugars, please, said Mr. Omnibus. Charlie impatiently tossed 3 spoonfuls of sugar into the coffee. Mr. Omnibus beamed. He took a sip, beamed again, and then, leaning close to Charlie, he said, "He knew you were connected. Aries did. These cats aren't ordinary. They know things. They chose me because I've got a special way with animals. They lead me here and there, trying to undo mischief, and I just follow, helping where I can. This case," his finger came down on the man holding the baby, "this is one of the worst. Aries has always been very angry about it. Time and again, he's tried to put it right, but we need you, Charlie." "Me?" asked Charlie. "You're one of the endowed, aren't you?" Mr. Omnibus spoke softly, as if it were a secret, not to be spoken out loud. "They say so," said Charlie. He couldn't help but look at the photograph, with Mr. Omnibus's finger stuck so accusingly on the man's face. And as soon as he looked, he began to hear the baby crying. Aries ran over to him and, placing his paw on Charlie's knees, let forth an ear-splitting yowl. His cry was immediately taken up by Orange Leo and Yellow Sagittarius. The noise was so painful, Charlie had to press his hands over his ears. "Hush," commanded Mr. Omnibus. "The boy's thinking." When the yowling had died down, Mr. Omnibus said, "You see, you are connected, Charlie. Now tell me all about it." Although decidedly odd, Mr. Omnibus looked kind of untrustworthy, and Charlie was badly in need of help. He told Mr. Omnibus about the mix-up with the photographs, the voices, the horrible being ants, and their assessment, and their decision to send him to Bloor's Academy. "And I really don't want to go there," finished Charlie. "I'd think I'd almost rather die." "But Charlie boy, that's where she is," said Mr. Omnibus. "The lost baby, at least. That's what the cat seems to think, and they're never wrong." He stood up. "Come on, cats, we've got to go." "You mean the baby in the photograph was lost?" asked Charlie. "How can you lose a baby?" "It's not for me to say," said Mr. Omnibus. "You take that photo where it belongs, and perhaps they'll tell you." "But I don't know where it belongs," Charlie said, beginning to panic. Mr. Omnibus was slipping away without helping at all. "Use your head, Charlie. That's an enlargement, isn't it? Find the original and you'll find a name and address." "Will I?" "Without a doubt," said Mr. Omnibus. And he smothered the pile on his coat, turned up his collar, and made for the front door. Charlie stood up, uncertainly, questions bubbling in his head. By the time he reached the open door, all that could be seen of his visitor was the small disappearing figure, followed by a flash of hot colors, like the bright tail of a comet. Charlie closed the door and ran upstairs, seizing the orange envelope. He shook it fiercely, and out fell a small photograph, the original of the enlargement, downstairs. He turned it over, and there, sure enough, was a name and address, written in bold, flowing letters, Miss Julia Ingledew, and 3 Cathedral Close. Where was Cathedral Close, and how was he to get there? He would have to leave his house before Maisie and his mother got home. They would never agree to his roaming off on his own to a place he didn't know. And if he didn't act now, he might not get back in time for Benjamin's party. But he'd have to leave a message, or his mother would worry. As far as he could remember, Charlie had never been inside his uncle's room before. A "Do Not Disturb" sign hung permanently on the door. Recently, Charlie had begun to wonder what Peyton did inside all day. Sometimes a soft tapping could be heard. Usually, there was silence. Today, Charlie would have to ignore the sign. He knocked on the door, hesitantly at first, and then more vigorously. "What?" said an angry voice. "Uncle Peyton, can I come in?" asked Charlie. "Why?" asked Peyton. "Because I have to find somewhere, and I want you to explain to Mom." There was a deep sigh. Charlie didn't dare open the door until his uncle said coldly, "Come in then, if you must." Charlie turned the doorknob and peered inside. He was surprised by what he saw. His uncle's room was overflowing with paper. It hung from shelves, dripped from piles on windowsills, covered Peyton's desk, and lapped like a tide around his ankles. Where was the bed? Under a blanket of books, Charlie had guessed. Books lined the walls from floor to ceiling. They even climbed around the desk in teetering towers. Well, asked Peyton, glancing up from a mound of paper. Please, can you tell me where Cathedral Close is? Charlie asked nervously. Where do you think? Beside the cathedral, of course. Peyton was a different person in daylight, chilly and forbidding. Oh, said Charlie, feeling foolish. Well, I'm going there now, but could you tell Mom? She will want to know, and yes, muttered Peyton with a vague wave. He motioned Charlie away. Thanks, said Charlie, closing the door as quietly as he could. He went to his room, hurriedly pulled on his jacket, and tucked the photos in their orange envelope into his pocket, then left the house. From his bedroom window, Benjamin saw Charlie walking past with a determined expression. Okay, and I'm going to stop here again because we're finding a lot here in this chapter. So some things we found out, Mr. Omnis comes to visit Charlie's house. And now we know that he is going to, I'm just going to put a C for Charlie. Charlie is going to the address on the back of the picture. That was the picture that we started with in chapter 1, where he's looking at a man holding a crying baby, and there's a cat in the background. They start hearing people talking. So that's something I know he's going there. I'm wondering who will be there. What will he find out? Okay. Sorry, just give me a second, boys and girls. I missed my spot, so let me grab it quick. Okay, sorry, found it. Benjamin opened his window and called, "Where are you going?" Charlie looked up. "To the cathedral," he said. "Can me and Runnerbeam come?" asked Benjamin. "No," said Charlie. "I'm going to get your present, and it's got to be a surprise." Benjamin closed his window. He wondered what sort of present Charlie could buy in a cathedral. A pen with the cathedral's name on it? Benjamin had plenty of pens. "Still, I don't really mind," he told Runnerbeam, "as long as he comes to my party." Runnerbeam thumped his tail on Benjamin's pillow. He was lying where he wasn't supposed to, on Benjamin's bed. Luckily, no one but Benjamin knew about it. The cathedral was in the old part of the city. Here, the streets were cobbled and narrow. The shops were smaller, and in their soft-lit windows, expensive clothes and jewelry lay on folds of silk and velvet. It seemed like a very private place, and Charlie felt almost as though he were trespassing. As the ancient cathedral began to loom above him, the shops gave way to a row of older houses. Number 3, Cathedral Close, however, was a bookshop. Above the door, a sign in Old World script read, "Ingledews." The books displayed in the windows were aged and dusty looking. Some were bound in leather, their leaves edged in gold. Charlie took a deep breath and went in. A bell tinkled as he stepped down into the shop, and a woman appeared through a curtain space behind the counter. She wasn't as old as Charlie expected, but about the same age as his mother. She had thick chestnut hair piled up on her head and kind brown eyes. "Yes?" asked the woman. "Can I help you?" "I think so," said Charlie. "Are you Julia Ingledew?" "Yes," she nodded. "I've come about your photograph," said Charlie. The woman's hand flew to her mouth. "Goodness," she said, "have you found it?" "I think so," said Charlie, handing over the orange envelope. The woman opened the envelope, and the 2 photos fell onto her desk. "Oh, thank you," she said. "I can't tell you how glad I am to have these." "Have you got mine?" asked Charlie. "My name's Charlie Bone." "Come through," said Miss Ingledew, motioning to Charlie to follow her through the curtain. Charlie walked cautiously around the counter and through the curtain in the wall of books. He found himself in a room not unlike the shop. All books again, packed tight on shelves or laying in piles on every surface. It was a cozy room for all that. It smelled of warm, rich words and very deep thoughts. A fire burned in a small iron grate, and table lamps glowed through the parchment-colored shades. "Here we are," said Julia Ingledew, and from a drawer she produced an orange envelope. Charlie took the envelope and opened it quickly. "Yes, it's Runnerbean," he said, "my friend's dog. I'm going to make a birthday card with it." "A lovely idea," said Miss Ingledew. "More personal. I always like personal. It shows one cares, doesn't it?" "Yes," said Charlie uncertainly. "Well, I'm very grateful to you, Charlie Bone," she said. "I feel you should have a reward of some sort. I haven't got much cash about, but I wonder." "It doesn't matter," said Charlie, a little embarrassed, though he could have used a little money to buy Benjamin's present. No, really, I think you're just the person. In fact, I feel that these have been waiting just for you." She pointed to a corner, and Charlie saw that his first impression of the room had been mistaken. It was not filled entirely with books. A table in one corner was piled high with boxes, wooden boxes, metal boxes, and big cardboard cartons. "What's in those?" asked Charlie. "My brother-in-law's effects," she said. "All that is left of him. He died last week." Charlie felt a lump rising in his throat. He said, "Oh dear, not his ashes, Charlie," said Miss Ingledew. "They're his, what shall I call them? Inventions. They only arrived yesterday. He sent them by courier the day before he died. Goodness knows why he left them to me." She got one of the boxes, removed the lid, and took out a metal robotic-looking dog. "It's no good to me," she said. "Do you want it?" Charlie thought of Runnerbean, and then of Benjamin. "Does it do anything?" he asked, because inventions usually did something. "Of course, let me see." She pulled down the dog's tail. It barked twice, and a voice said, "I am number 2. You have already pulled my tail, so you know how to make me play. To fast forward, press my left ear. To rewind, press my right ear. To record, press my nose. To stop, pull my right foot up. To replace tapes, open my stomach." The voice gave these instructions. The voice that gave these instructions was familiar to Charlie. I wonder who that voices could be. Maybe someone from the photograph? "Any use to you?" asked Miss Ingledew, "or would you like to see others?" "It's perfect," said Charlie. "Brilliant, but the voice, is it yours?" "No, it's my brother-in-law, Dr. Tolley. The device was one of his earliest, but he never bothered to sell it. Once the thing was made, that was it. He was a lazy man, Charlie. Clever, but lazy." "It's him in the photo, isn't it?" Charlie didn't mention that he recognized the voice. How could he? "Yes, that's Dr. Tolley. He did something terrible once." Miss Ingledew's mouth closed in a grim line. "Why did you want his photo then?" asked Charlie. The bookseller darted him a quick look, as if she were sizing him up. "It's the baby I want," she said at last. "It's all I have to remember her by." And suddenly Miss Ingledew was telling Charlie about the dreadful day when her sister Nancy died, just before her daughter's 2nd birthday, and how a few days later Nancy's husband, Dr. Tolley, had given his daughter away. I didn't think you could give children away," said Charlie, horrified. "You can't," said Miss Ingledew. "I was sworn to secrecy. I should have taken her, you see, but I was selfish and irresponsible. I didn't think I could cope. Not one day has passed since then when I haven't regretted my decision. I tried to find out whom she'd been given to, where she had gone, but Dr. Tolley would never tell me. She was lost in a system of lies and tricks and forgery. She'd been 10 years old now, and I'd give anything to have her back." Charlie felt uncomfortable. He was being drawn into a situation he didn't much like. If only he hadn't heard the voices in the photograph, how could he possibly tell Miss Ingledew that the 3 cats thought the lost baby was at Bloor's Academy? She would never believe him. In a shadowy corner, a grandfather clock struck 12, and Charlie said, "I think I'd better go home now. Mom'll be worried." "Of course, but take the dog, Charlie, and," she suddenly darted to the table and withdrew a long silver case from the bottom of a pile. Will you take this one as well? She didn't wait for an answer, but plunged it into a bag marked Ingledew's Books. Handing the bag to Charlie, she said, "You can put the dog in as well. There's just enough room." The bag was unbelievably heavy. Charlie carefully placed the dog in its box on top of the metal case. Then he stumbled to the door, wondering how on earth he would manage to heave the bag all the way home. Julia Ingledew helped him up the step and opened the shop door, which gave another melodious ring. "I hope you don't mind my asking," said Charlie, "but what's in the case?" The answer was rather surprising. "I don't know," said Miss Ingledew, "and I'm not sure I want to. Dr. Tolly exchanged it for his baby. Whatever it is, it can't be worth as much as a baby, can it?" "No," said Charlie. He put the bag on the ground. "Please take it, Charlie. You look like just the right person. I've got to get out of the house, you see." She lowered her voice and darted a quick look down the street. "And can I ask you to keep a secret for now?" "That's a bit difficult," said Charlie, even more reluctant to take a strange case. "Can't I even tell my best friend?" "Tell no one who you wouldn't trust with your life," said Miss Ingledew. Whew, so that was a mysterious chapter. We have two new characters that came up, Mr. Omnibus and Miss Ingledew, who happens to be the sister-in-law of the man in the photograph. We definitely found out some important information about the photos. We did find out that the baby in photo was given away after her mom died. And then I'm even gonna put possibly at Bloor's Academy, question mark. Okay, and I'm wondering, I don't know, what are you guys wondering out there? Why don't you guys think about this? I think I'm wondering, will Charlie find the baby in the photo? Probably not a baby anymore. And I'm also wondering, what is in the silver case? What is in the silver box? Because what was ever in the silver box, the lady said, that is what Dr. Tolly traded for his own daughter. He gave away his daughter and in return got this silver box. So I definitely am wondering what is in that silver box. Next chapter, I'll read chapter 4, and I want you guys to try doing this double entry journal on your own. So I won't be doing it that time. Hope you enjoyed chapter 3. Chapter 4 will be coming out soon. Hope you all have a great day. Thanks.